Hello and welcome to the this session of the PPM Attorney Capital Forum. I'm your host, Darin Mangum, securities lawyer, managing partner of Mangum and Associates, securities law firm. We practice nationwide, internationally as well, but that's a commercial, so I won't go on. I'm super excited about today's session. I thought we might as well get started, and we do have a few questions that some of our members have posed, and we'll get to that at the end. I haven't yet put together an outline for this particular course, but I plan to do that as soon as we're done. So if you're following along live right now, bear with me. But at the end, we'll be definitely sending you I'm sending you two things. One is an outline for the topics that we're covering today, and then the other one is an example, a very specific example of subscription agreements, of a subscription agreement, I should say subscription documents, which are not just one agreement, but sometimes several. I'm super excited about today's session because this is where the rubber hits the road, right? This is you're at the stage where you've already introduced yourself to the investor. You've already maybe given them a pitch. You've already given them the PPM, and they've said yes, right? That after all that, they're saying, okay, what do I do to invest, right? And that's where we get into the subscription documents, and that's where you're actually going to close the sale, right? You're actually going to sell your offering or your securities to this investor, right? And this is the paperwork that the investor gets to fill out, right? So if you've been around as long as I have, there are a million different variations of subscription agreements, subscription documents out there. They vary pretty widely. A lot of them say very similar things. I mean, obviously the whole point of the subscription documents is to basically, the investor is basically confirming that they are investing with you, right? And they're filling out the paperwork, giving you a written record that you're going to then review and then accept along with their payment or with their money, right? And so this is where they're buying, right? They're investing in you at this stage, right? So this is a very critical stage because I've seen investors that say yes, 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 and then they hit the subscription documents, and then maybe the subscription documents are super, super long, super complicated, not very user friendly, right? And this is where I think, if I could, speaking of commercials, if I could put a plug in for our law firm. I mean, we've been practicing over 23 years, going on 24 years now. And so we have dealt with literally thousands and thousands of subscription documents and all of that. And also, personally, I've been involved in some ventures, and we've, raised capital for various things in the past, and direct investors, and so I know exactly what it's like to sit across from the table from an investor and say, okay, hey, here's the paperwork, let's go through it, right? And the last thing you want to do, I think, at this stage is to over legalize them. I mean, that really is what the PPM is for, right? The PPM is, hey, this is the disclosure document, this is all the bad and scary things. You don't want to, but I've seen this, you don't want to regurgitate the entire PPM in the subscription documents. I've seen subscription documents that are like 50 pages long, and that go over they even plug risk factors in there, and they plug in all this buyer beware stuff, and then but that's the whole point of the PPM. The subscription document really just can be very, very streamlined, very simple. You don't want it to take longer than 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes tops, but 5 minutes to just go through the subscription document, And nowadays, with DocuSign, HelloSign, Adobe Sign. I mean, so many different ways to electronically sign documents now. And so, yeah, if you want it, if you do it in person or a paper, that still works. If you want to go ahead and pre-fill out the form and say you just have to type in their information. If you already know a lot of their information because of your relationship with them, maybe you could pre-fill the information out. I mean, you don't want to fill out the documents for them. I mean, ultimately they have to provide that information, but if you can make it as convenient as possible, right? If you already know their address, you already know their name. Okay, well that could be pre-filled out potentially, and then you want to make it as easy as possible. That's not really legal advice. That's really just practical advice. I mean, because they are buying something, right? I mean, how many people, like when you go to buy a house, I mean, you're sitting there with stacks and, I mean, obviously it's a whole different situation, but, but yeah, when it comes to, I mean, usually people aren't going to back out of buying their house unless they get to the, they're going through, oh crap, lead disclosures and, all of that. Then maybe they may back out at that point. But but anyway, when it comes to an investor, sorry about that. I'm getting some messages here. I should turn that off, right? So anyway, but when you get to the subscription documents, like I said, you want it to be as simple as possible. So what I was going to do is I'm going to send you an outline that goes along with what we're talking about. And also, what I'm really going to do here is go through an actual set of subscription documents. This one is for a limited partnership. And again, most of the subscription documents, again, whether they're subscribing for stock, whether they're subscribing for a promissory note, whether they're subscribing for an LLC interest or a limited partnership interest or whatever or even a cryptocurrency, right? They're going to be filling out a set of subscription documents. Obviously, they're going to vary somewhat depending on the actual security that you're selling to the investor. But for the most part, you're going to have basically two documents that make up the what we call the subscription documents. What are the subscription documents? They are basically your suitability questionnaire and the subscription agreement itself. Okay, so this is a case where the example I have in front of me is the questionnaire is a 506C. The 506C it is a 506C subscription document, and so the suitability questionnaire is a little bit different. So you're going to have either a Rule 506B suitability questionnaire, or you're going to have a 506C suitability questionnaire. The first part of it is basically, hey, you're basically saying, hey, you are, we're asking for, we need this information for compliance with the law, right? So we need to make sure that this is a suitable investment for you. And usually just have a simple paragraph that states that. And then, you're going to collect their basic information, their name, their address, their email address, their phone number, date of birth, your social security number, these kind of things. And this is where they're filling out how do they want the security to be titled, right? How do they want that to be recorded in your company books, right? And how are you gonna, this is how we're gonna contact you, right? And so you're basically filling out that information. That's going to be pretty simple. Now, something that we typically add to the subscription document, it's not required by law, but we also have a little box that we check and say, hey, have you ever been party to litigation involving securities or financial matters? if so, if yes, then please provide a brief description of that proceeding. Why do we include this, right? It's not required by law, but what we try to do, I mean, ultimately, you're making a judgment call as to whether you want to accept this investor, right? Just because they're accredited, or just because they have the money, just because they're saying yes and giving you money, that doesn't automatically mean that they're automatically going to invest. Ultimately, you as the promoter, obviously, if you need help with legal counsel, we're happy to review the questionnaire for you or with you. But ultimately, you're going to make a decision. Okay, should I accept this subscription, right? Just because they fill out a subscription document and send you money doesn't mean that you're required to accept it. Okay, you may look at this person and say, you know what, and that's why we ask this question. Hey, have you ever been involved in a securities litigation before? Okay, if they check the box yes, okay, and they list, oh, you know what, I've sued, 5 of the last 6 companies I've invested in, right? You don't want a litigious investor, okay? And so if they've checked that box, I mean, it doesn't, you could go ahead and accept them anyway, but you're basically saying, hey, let us know. You're basically representing to us if you've been involved in any other securities infraction. Not to mean that they're going to sue you, but at least you're aware that this investor may have the propensity to be a little sue happy, maybe a litigious person, right? They may all be warm and friendly up front, but you might find out, oh wow, this person is a plaintiff on several different securities class action lawsuits. Maybe we want to think twice about accepting their funds, right? Again, it just allows you to sort of assess. I mean, this is your opportunity to assess whether this person not only is legally acceptable or legally qualified, but also just as a, do we want this person, right, as part of our company, right, as part of our deal or part of our fund. So that's that's something that it's not, again, you don't have to put it in there if you want to, but we always recommend putting it in there. That way you have a little bit more you can make a little bit more of an intelligent decision as to whether you want to accept them, right? Obviously, if they are in fact, well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to send you 2 different sets of subscription documents as part of this session, and the I'll send you a 506B example and also a 506C example. That way you can kind of compare the two, because that's what we're going to do right now, is kind of compare the two. In this case, you're the example I've got in front of me right now is a 506C, where they're going to give you information as to whether, what kind of investor are they. And here, like in a 506C example, they're basically saying, hey, I'm an accredited investor, and this is meaning that I'm a person that has a net worth of $1 million, or I have income, or I'm qualifying based on income of more than $200,000 of annual income per year, and I reasonably expect to receive that in the coming year, right? So they're saying they're an individual accredited investor. Now, in a 506B, all they have to do is check that box, right? I'm an accredited investor, and here's how I qualify, right? In a 506C context, you have to say, okay, well, that's great, you're accredited, but you also have to attach some kind of verification, some other form of evidence verifying that you are in fact accredited, right? And in our questionnaire here, we have, again, trying to make it as simple as possible. Look, you're going to initial one of those. Hey, I've got a net worth of $1 million, or initial down here where, oh, I've got income, and then I'm going to attach, give them a little checklist. Hey, I'm going to attach one of the following different types of evidence showing that I'm accredited. Okay, Again, 506B, you don't have to do that. They're just saying, hey, I'm representing that I'm accredited. Here it is. If it's a 506C, that you have to verify, and they're either going to give you a confirmation either from their CPA or their attorney or a FINRA broker dealer. I mean, again, this is not a comprehensive list, but these are ways that they can verify that they are in fact accredited, right? And so, sometimes they may have audited financial statements or something like that showing that they're accredited. But anyway, that's really, really simple. And again, once they've filled that out, then they skip to the end, right? They skip over corporations because there's a separate page for corporations. There's a separate page for living trusts, irrevocable trusts. So basically, they're just going to go right to at least in this 506C example, they're going to go right to the one in which they are. What kind of investor are they? Are they an IRA, a self-directed IRA? Okay, they're going to go to that page, fill that out, and then they're done, right? Again, making it as quickly as possible. They're going to initial one place, and they're going to maybe attach. Again, if you're verifying them, they're going to attach that, or if it's like I said, it's a 506B, they're just going to initial that one spot, and then they skip to the end and sign, right? So, here we've got, whether they're an individual, they're going to fill, initial there. If they're a corporation or a partnership or an LLC, they're going to initial there. Or if they're a living trust or some kind of family trust, they're going to initial there. Or if they're an individual IRA account, or if there's some other, maybe they're a partner, maybe they're a broker dealer, maybe they're maybe they are a partner in the company, so they're accredited that way, and then they skip to the end, right? Now, and where they're signing, dating, and then they're done, right? So literally, the suitability questionnaire, really name, address, phone number, tax ID number, blah blah blah, initial, and then sign, and they're done. Literally 5 minutes tops on like a DocuSign, even faster, right? Basically, it'll step them through initial here, pick one of these options and then sign it, right? So it literally should not take them that longer than that. If you're looking at the 506B, the Rule 506B questionnaire, suitability questionnaire, that one has basically, hey, if you're accredited, like we just walked through, fill out, initial one of these. If you're not accredited, then go to this section. We have a separate section for non-accredited people. They're basically going to give additional information showing that they have at least a reasonable sophistication, that they are in fact a sophisticated investor, right? What does that mean? That means education. They're going to show their education, or they're going to show their current investment portfolio, at least summarize it for you. Hey, it has a separate section. Hey, check the box or circle each of the types of investments you've made in the past: real estate, oil and gas, crypto, whatever. At least and also, hey, what kind of education do you have? How old are you? How many years of investing experience do you have? That additional information is going to give you the information that you need in order to make a determination whether they are at least sophisticated, right? So the example I always give of maybe somebody that's not sophisticated. Let's say they get to that section. Let's say they're not accredited, so they skip that. Or let's say they skip over the accredited part and they go to the non-accredited part, and they don't fill out any. I've never invested in anything. I'm like 90 years old and I basically have a high school diploma, right? Maybe, right? But they obviously have money to invest, right? But yet they themselves haven't really given you. They've said they're not accredited, and also they've said, look, I don't have all these indicia of sophistication as a sophisticated investor, right? I don't have an education. I don't have investing experience. I don't have any of that, right? But somehow I've got, $100,000 I want to give you, right, and invest in your company. Well, what do you do in that context? Well, in this, again, in the 506B example, we would say, hey, look, maybe you yourself don't qualify as a sophisticated investor. So we're going to require you to be represented by somebody who is, right? And that could be, maybe a member of your family who is sophisticated. Like maybe this 90-year-old retiree, okay, has $100,000, but maybe their son is an attorney. Maybe their son is a CPA, or a daughter is maybe their daughter is like a financial professional. Or let's say they don't have any family, right? They're gonna say, well, what you're saying is, hey, we'll make you say that you're represented by somebody that is sophisticated. It could be their financial planner, it could be their financial advisor that is saying, hey, I'm actually helping this person evaluate the merits and risks of this investment, and I'm acting on their behalf, and I'm signing along with them saying that, yeah, we've assessed the risk and we think it's a good investment, right? And so that keeps you in compliance, right? Because you don't want a non-accredited. I mean, it's okay to take in non-accredited investors as long as they are reasonably sophisticated, okay? If they're not accredited and not sophisticated, right, you're either going to turn those people away, or you're going to say, hey, look, I'm going to make you be represented by somebody who does have those credentials, like I said, a CPA, financial planner, blah blah blah, that acts on their behalf. And then if they're signing off as well, then okay, we'll go ahead and let you in, right? Again, at any point you can say, you know what, I don't think this is right for you, especially if it's a high risk venture, right? I mean, I've had clients in the past, they're doing high risk wildcatting, right? And and they've got this little old lady trying to invest with them. I'm like, look, this retired old lady, little retired school teacher, really shouldn't be investing in this high risk oil and gas deal. And so why are you even considering it, right? Why are you, but hey, maybe they need the money. They're willing to take anybody's money. They don't care. They're not looking beyond, hey, maybe this isn't the right fit for this person, right? And really you have to do that. You have to, kind of put yourself in their shoes and do that, right? So, so that's so anyway, that's when you got non-accredited people, you definitely want them to fill out that section. Again, it doesn't apply in a 506C context because everybody's accredited. If they can't, and that's another thing. I think we do have some questions about this at the end, but maybe I can circle back to that one. Let me make sure. Yeah, we can circle back to this question at the end, but anyway, once they filled out that information, well, I guess I can go ahead and. Sorry, I'll go ahead and address this question now. This is a question by Dwayne. He's like, what happens if the person doesn't? What happens if the person doesn't attach any sort of verification, right? Let's say they fill out the paperwork, they wire you the money, but they never follow up on sending you a letter from their CPA or their attorney or something like that to verify that they're accredited. Well, I mean, as your lawyer, I would say, well, you're not going to be able to show the SEC that you verified them. So you got a kind of a potential hole in your boat if the SEC ever came looking, right? Because what does the SEC do, right? If they contact you, they say, hey, look, I understand you're doing a 506C. We want to see all of your records showing that all of your investors are accredited and that you took and that you complied with the law, that you took reasonable steps to verify. Okay, if I send that to the SEC, oh, here's all of our investors and here's all of our paperwork for each of them, and they're going to look at it and say, well, okay, well, I see verification, but here they got a handful here that you don't have verification, right? Okay, well, what does that do, right? Well, potentially, at least, potentially, at least with those investors, well, you're not in compliance, right? And potentially, it could blow the entire exemption, right? Because maybe you didn't take, maybe these people are not accredited, right? And you didn't take reasonable steps to verify them when you accepted their investment. So, again, you could certainly incur civil liability, civil penalties if you don't have that in your file, right, for each of the investors, right? For each investor, you need to have a set of subscription documents that's been executed, as well as in the 506C context, some sort of independent verification that you did take reasonable steps to verify that they are accredited, right? So that's got to be in the file, right? If that's not, okay, well, you got a problem, right? Again, 506B does not have to have that, right? You just have their representing in the subscription document that they are accredited or not accredited, right? Okay, so hopefully that goes over, and then of course they sign it. Again, I know we've covered this for the past 25 minutes or so, but when it comes to actually executing it, they just need to literally take 5 minutes and fill out that information. And then the subscription agreement, same thing, maybe 1 minute, subscription agreement, because all they're really doing there is saying, this is how much I'm investing. And the subscription agreement basically is there representing to you that, hey, yeah, I did receive the PPM. I am investing, right? I represent and warrant to you that I am either an accredited investor or I'm at least a sophisticated investor, right? This is they're basically saying to you, hey, I'm subscribing to, and the way it's positioned is they're applying for a job. The investor is sending you a subscription. Hey, I want to invest, and here's all my information. Now, at the end of the day, the very bottom, and then of course they sign and date it, saying, hey, I'm going to be legally bound, blah blah blah. Yeah, and this is another question I got from Phil. Phil, and I'll address that in a second, Phil. Yeah, so they're basically representing and warranting that they are in fact accredited or not accredited, blah blah blah. And then after they've signed it and dated it, there's the very last section is your acceptance, right? Your acceptance on behalf of the general partner, or your acceptance on behalf as an executive officer of the company, that these things are in fact, that you are accepting their investment. Never, and this is Phil's question. He asked, well, what happens if they fill out the paperwork, send in the money, he said, what if they don't send the money, right? What do I do then? Well, and we've seen this time and time again where they fill out the paperwork. Yeah, I'm great, I'm investing, and so in your mind you think, okay, great, I closed the sale, but the bank wire never comes in. Or I've seen this happen, especially back in the oil and gas days. They send in a check, and then the check bounces, right? And hopefully you didn't pay out the broker fee. Hopefully you didn't pay the broker dealer before that check bounced, right? Because and that's in the context of a rolling, where you have rolling closings and you're not aggregating all the funds in escrow. I mean, if you're aggregating all the funds in escrow and you have like a high minimum closing threshold, then you're not going to have this problem, because the check is, this check never cleared, so that it's not even in escrow, right? But if you're raising capital on a rolling basis, just be careful. You want to before you actually spend that money or pay expenses associated with that capital raise. You just want to make sure the money's good, right? And that's, obviously bank wires are the best way to do it. Most people are commonly doing that nowadays, but still, I mean, what you don't want. And so what happens if they fill out the paperwork and never send the bank wire, never send the check, right? Well, then, don't, and that's why I tell clients, never ever fill out this acceptance, sign the acceptance part of the subscription agreement until those funds have cleared, right? And then once the funds have cleared, then they're good. Then you can go ahead and countersign this acceptance, and then send them a copy back. Well, as well as a welcome aboard letter, that kind of thing. Hey, welcome aboard. Here's a countersigned copy of your documents, and maybe if you are issuing stock certificates or some kind of thing like that, then you can send that to them. But and so I think Phil's question, so Phil, if you, to address your question, if they never send them the money, then you never accept them, right? I did have a client where they forgot that. They went ahead and signed all the acceptance, and the person still never sent the money, and they said, well, could they sue them, right? And I'm like, good luck in suing the investor for, making them send in the money, because, it's never, ever, ever going to happen, right? It's like you're going to force them in the deal that they don't want to be a part of, or, it's just not going to happen. If they don't send the money, then you just, in this other client's case, they said, oh, crap, or this person, we signed the acceptance and we sent it back to them, but they never sent the money. Are we stuck with them? And I said, well, obviously the answer is no, right? You're gonna send them a letter saying, hey, you never fulfilled your part of the agreement. The agreement is saying, hey, I'm sending, $100,000 or whatever it is, and agreeing to, invest in the fund. If they never did that, well, okay, they breached the subscription agreement. Yeah, technically you could possibly sue them, but you're never going to force them to send you money, right? They're always going to have some excuse or some reason, I mean, if it was some like big, VC type funding deal where you got parties, where it's like a binding funding commitment, and then technically you could possibly sue them, but it never goes well. It's always ugly, right? If the investor doesn't want to invest, you just in that context of that example, I just said, hey, look, you're going to send them a letter saying, hey, in a nice way, right? You say, hey, because you didn't fulfill your obligation of the subscription agreement, we're going to void it, right? We're going to void it, cancel it, and wish you the best of luck. And sometimes I've seen that actually spur people to say, oh crap, I thought I sent the money. Maybe some technicality, like they thought the wire went through and it didn't, or maybe it's they thought, and so they wind up sending more money in. But most of the time, if they're not gonna invest, they're just not gonna invest, right? So you just say, hey, best of luck. Your subscription agreement is canceled, despite what we sent you that said it's accepted, but since you didn't send in the money, then we're going to cancel it, void it, and wish you the best of luck, right? So sometimes you might have a conversation with them, say, hey, do you things happen, right? Investors are just like anybody else. They've got things that pop up and say, oh crap, I thought I was going to have the money. Maybe can you give me a little more time? Whatever, right? And so you're going to have a conversation. I mean, you need to treat them like people, right? Don't try to play hardball with them. But anyway, that is a little bit of a marathon run through of the subscription agreement and closing documents. Again, one of my favorite topics, because this is where you're actually receiving the money from the investor and they're buying, right? And that's always a happy day, right? That's the whole reason why you went through all the pain of putting the PPM together, and so you could do it right. And this is where they're actually investing. So anyway, I addressed I know some. If you have any, if there's other people that had questions, you can email that to us. But I think we addressed, instead of handling them at the end, I think I addressed these questions during the course of our session here. So anyway, we appreciate everybody attending. Again, if you have any feedback, please let us know. I'm excited about our next session. Our next session is coming up. It is, what are we doing? We're doing marketing strategies, right? So that's the next session. Session number 8 is marketing strategies. I encourage you to attend that. We'll be sending out a notice of when that's going to happen, and you can watch it on your own time if you're already a paying member of the forum. Certainly welcome to watch it on your own time. So, but yeah, marketing strategies next. Upcoming is we're going to be talking about brokers and finders, raising capital via social media. So yeah, some good topics coming up. And anyway, appreciate you guys being a member of the forum. Also we want to make sure we introduced you to our some of our preferred capital partners, Marquee Capital. They have a great network of over 30,000 investors in different parts of the world. Again, depending on the nature of the deal, they've got just the bandwidth to introduce your deal to several, literally thousands of different kinds of investors. And so we highly recommend you connect with them, at least have a conversation with them and see if it's a good fit. I think it is. I mean, especially for the money, to introduce you to have such wide exposure to a bunch of potential investors. Those of you that are doing crowdfunding, it's not really a crowdfunding fit. They're not like a crowdfunding portal, but certainly they are a great potential source of capital to introduce you to. So if you're interested in that, let us know. Obviously, if you're a member of the forum, we're glad to set up a meeting with you, with you. And obviously, if we're hired as your securities attorneys, and again, we don't make anything. Marquee Capital doesn't pay us anything. We just really like them and think they're great. I think they provide a very cost-effective, valuable resource. So, we want to make that available to our forum members. So, anyway, again, thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next forum. Thank you.